But welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the Hasbara, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Being kind is the guys in this mess in the first place.
Put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, cut and paste a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. And how is everybody doing in chat? As I put on some hand lotion, I had cleverly made sure to actually sort out the usual things I spend the first 30 seconds on live doing while the intro graphics were still playing. And then it occurred to me my hands were really dry, so now instead of wasting time on air, getting the chat window where I can see it and making sure that the window that is being shown behind me is the one that I actually want shown and not like Facebook, which for some reason OBS keeps on doing. Go figure. Now I'm wasting time putting hand lotion on, so swings and roundabouts, I suppose. I thought we might start out with some crap that I found in my Rex. Some channel, you may have heard that Israel spent a whole bunch of money to get Google to promote pro-Israel propaganda, pro-genocide propaganda, and on its various platforms. And I have a feeling that this channel, which is just really, really shitty short videos, it seems to be it's like PragerU, but more Zionist and less, more just worse, called Facts versus Fiction, where the truth fights back. And we have 5 funny facts why Israel equals Jewish, which is one of those things that Zionists and anti-Semites agree with each other on. And since we're going to be talking about a lot of that tonight, why not just start out there? For some reason, we have 2 videos from this channel. One 1 minute and 6 seconds, 1 minute and 24 seconds long. Both with fake Einstein doing Hasbara, which is already ironic if you know what Einstein had to say about the parties from which the parties arose that are currently in government. He called them a bunch of Nazis. That's so making him a spokesman for Israel when he literally declined the job when he was offered the chance to be second president of Israel is an interesting choice. I'm guessing they don't mention that in this video. So, for some reason, there are 2 that are both 5 funny facts. I'm sure they're going to be hilarious. Why Israel equals Jewish. Okay, and this has 415 views. This showed up in my recommendations. It has 415 views. It has fewer views than I have subscribers, and it showed up in my recommendations. There's no way that happens without somebody doing some boosting.
Yo, it's me, Einstein.
Wow, that sounds so much like what I would expect Einstein to sound like. I mean, he was known for the way he would say, "Yo, it's me."
Brains plus hair equals facts you can't ignore.
I mean, they could at least have tried to do his accent.
Let's break this down with 5 truths and one big punchline.
Oh, wow. I mean, I'm already just hooked.
Over 3,000 years ago, Jews were already chilling in Jerusalem.
Like, 3,000 years ago, Finns were in fucking Siberia. What's your point? Like, go back even further, and all humans were in Africa.
That's like longer than my hair has been messy. King David.
Wow, wow, that's a punchline. That's an amazing punchline. I kind of paused in the middle, so I want you all to enjoy this fucking banger of a punchline.
That's like longer than my hair has been messy.
Wow. This again, usually, okay, I've never had a video with this few views in my recommendations before. It's always big channels, unless it's a channel I just happen to have watched a lot. This video has 415 views. That's 5 fewer views, and it's been out for like a week at least. That's 5 fewer views than I have subscribers. I used to have 421, and on the one hand, I like sort of always feel a little bit bad when I see that the number has gone down. On the other hand, it's 420, so like I'm actually kind of okay with that. I mean, if you're as a number of subscribers, I'm kind of cool with that. But yeah, so there's no way that this was not deliberately boosted into my feed, because algorithmically, a video that nobody has watched doesn't make it in there.
King David built his palace in Jerusalem. Meanwhile, your ancestors were still figuring out how to invent sandals.
Wow. First of all, whose ancestors is he talking about? 'Cause that's for one thing. Okay, for one thing, I mean, that's like that's nice and racist. But also, like, remember, these are meant to be funny facts. So the punchline is the idea that somebody's ancestors, the ancestors of the person watching this, which, when I say person, I do mean the singular, because like 415 views, I imagine the audience retention is like 2 seconds. Hey, Riveroon. So, okay.
Every synagogue in the world prays facing Jerusalem.
Yeah, I mean, okay, true, but so what? Like, all Muslims pray facing Mecca, or at least trying to face Mecca, to the extent that they can actually determine the direction. That doesn't mean that they all actually are planning on invading Mecca and taking it over. Like, I mean, they do a pilgrimage, they go on the Hajj, and then they go home. That's not the same thing.
Imagine booking flights for 2,000 years, always to the same address.
What the fuck does that even mean? First of all, you don't book flights to an address. Second of all, I don't think it's been possible to book flights for 2,000 years. And also, like, praying facing a place? That isn't the same thing as booking a flight there. And also, if you look at old churches, like old European churches, they're all facing east, and they're facing east to face Jerusalem too. So, like, who gives a shit? But, okay, so booking a flight for 2,000, that's, like, who wrote this stuff? Like, did anyone write this? Is this AI slop? Is this, like, Clanker Hasbara?
Dead Sea Scrolls? Written in...
Yeah, yo, it's Einstein. in that typical Midwestern voice that we all know that Einstein was famous for.
Bro. Sorry, bro. Dress. In flights for 2,000 years. Always to the same address. Dead Sea Scrolls, written in Hebrew. Sorry, bro. Not in Arabic. Not.
What, like... So what? Sorry, like, what? Sorry, bro, not in Arabic. Wow. Isn't that interesting how the Dead Sea Scrolls were not written in a language that was widely used in the area at the time, but later became very widely used? A lot of stuff was written in Aramaic, too. Like, was anyone... I missed the part where, like, Palestinians were apparently rooting for the Dead Sea Scrolls to turn out to be in Arabic. Is that the idea here?
Not in Greek. Hebrew only.
So what?
Instead of modern Israel, Hebrew is the national language.
Okay. Like, I'm really beginning to think that this is AI, because I cannot imagine that an actual human wrote all of this stuff and thought that it was appealing.
If this land wasn't Jewish, why is everyone ordering shawarma in Hebrew?
Everybody isn't, though. That's kind of the thing. And why are they ordering shawarma? Could it possibly be that they were... Because there's no W in Hebrew. There's no W. Shawarma is not a Hebrew word. So why are they ordering shawarma? It sounds like maybe there were some other people there beforehand.
So next time someone says Israel isn't Jewish, tell them Einstein said, that's not relativity. That's stupidity.
Wow, I mean, again with the fucking bangers. He is spitting bars. Fake Einstein with the Midwestern voice is spitting some bars. And I still can't get over the fact that they chose Einstein of all people to be doing the, you know, they could have had any avatar they wanted. And they picked a guy who actually didn't want anything to do with Israel, and said that the whole idea was making him very uncomfortable because a lot of the political parties were just a bunch of Nazis, and he'd already run away from Nazi shit once.
Facts are eternal.
Facts are not eternal. Actually, things change.
Fiction is delusional. Subscribe to the channel.
Yeah. Okay. That was... this is... It had 379 subscribers. No, this is not PragerU. This is some bullshit that showed him up in my recommendations, and the only thing I can figure is that when Israel paid this huge amount of money, it was like, I think 50 million, something like that, to Google to promote propaganda on their platforms, that they boosted this. It has 379 subs. This video has 415 views. It's been up for 30 days. And somehow this was in my recommendations. I think they'd have a valid defense by saying that actually the voice is definitely not his likeness. Like, they didn't even try to get... I mean, usually when you see people do Einstein, they will give him the voice, because he did have kind of a German accent being from there. So, okay. And by the way, hello, Mask of the Red Death, good to see you. There's another of these. Apparently, it has the same title for some reason, But it is a different video and is shorter, which is like one good thing it's got going for it. Oh, and they got its hashtag Einstein. Wow. So this shows up when you search for Einstein, except even if you hadn't hashtagged it, it still would. Boomers and clankers.
Einstein. I know physics, but today I'll drop 5 facts why Israel equals Jewish.
Yeah, this has to be clanker output. Because that's not how people talk. Like, not even weird-ass Hasbara people. And why does he have... Okay, he has a wrinkly face and then, like, fucking baby hands? What's the deal there? Like, how much fucking Aquaphor is... Clanker, as in Gen AI.
Get ready. E equals MC squared equals E equals my comedy times 2 over...
Oh, wow. Okay, he's spitting the bars again. We're just gonna look at one more of these. It's a minute long, and then...
3,000 years ago, Jews were in Jerusalem. That's older than my mustache comb. King...
Okay. Different... Fucking... Wait, okay, so the idea is that it's older than his mustache comb. Yeah, I mean, this is the exact, like the exact same thing as the other one, except with a worse punchline somehow. Hi, hello, hey, what's up, man? Yes, what a hell indeed. This is some of the propaganda, the pro-Israel propaganda, that, as far as I can tell, must have been some of what has just been sort of flooded into the... and boosted in the algorithm. Because I don't know... Well, yes, there's also that. There's also that. Because I've never had the algorithm just show me a video with 415 views from a channel with 300 subscribers if I haven't already watched the channel, and believe me, I have never watched this channel before, and I have a feeling I will not again.
King David ruled in Jerusalem, while others were still asking, what's Wi-Fi? Every synagogue on earth.
Well, others were asking what's Wi-Fi. I think King David might have also been asking what's Wi-Fi. Like,
praise Facebook.
Yeah, okay, so I get it. This is just fucking prompts. It's prompts. They put it through once, uploaded the crappy output, and then put it through again and decided that they liked one better than the other, because it's like literally just really horrible punchlines.
Jerusalem, talk about loyalty. Even Google Maps gets jealous. Dead Sea Scrolls, Hebrew, baby, not Egyptian, not Martian.
Not Egyptian or Martian. Wow. I mean, like, okay, so this is the exact same video with different shitty punchlines. What the hell? This channel, for anyone who's wondering, like, what to not watch, is called Facts versus Fiction, where truth fights back. Ending. Subscribe now or Einstein will recalculate your life equations and you'll get 0 likes. Motherfucker, my video that has the most likes on it has more likes than this video has views. And that doesn't take much. Either to be my video with the most likes or to have more likes than this thing has views. Okay, so that piece of crap has now been shared with you. That's a thing that you cannot unsee. And I thought we might just look. Sarah Hurwitz, an Obama speechwriter, had some interesting thoughts on Holocaust education, and I thought I just have a little look at that.
With that amazing charge, we're going to begin to answer the audience.
Hey, Adrien. Okay.
Menachem Begin, the first Israeli, and they're very different versions of Israel. The first is and gave birth to the process that led to the foundation of the Second Israeli Republic, the Yom Kippur War.
What do you mean, Israel? Okay, I'm skipping through because I only want to hear what she has to say. But Israel is very explicitly not a republic. They just call it the state of because they did not want to commit even at a basic level to what form of government they were going to use.
And that was in the north. In the south, everything was on steroids. South, ambivalent victory. Israeli Republic, and it created a birth of the third Israeli. That's the generation.
Actually, constitutionally, it isn't, though. Constitutionally, they very explicitly refuse to define themselves as a republic. Because even the parliament is considered optional.
Product of compromise. First between French and the English, and you can hear from my accent and my weird turns of French Jews to build.
Skipping.
On how people think. There have been huge shifts in America on how.
In the world, what are your thoughts?
Here we go.
You know, I think that since October 7th, but really before then, there have been huge shifts in America on how people.
Okay. If you've somehow managed to avoid seeing it, she managed to say the quiet part out very loud, and that is why I'm interested in having a look at the rest of whatever horrible shit she said.
People think about Jews in Israel, and I think that is especially true of young people. So we are now wrestling with a new, I think, generational divide here. And I think that's particularly true in that...
It's not actually new... It's not new and it's not particularly generational. Because, I mean, part of the reason the American Jewish Council has stopped asking a whole lot of questions about... They have this annual survey of Jewish opinion. And they used to ask a whole lot of questions about what people thought of Israel. They don't anymore. They stopped. And they stopped because they started getting answers they didn't want. And that starts around 2009.
Social media is now our source of media. And this, you know, it used to be that the media you got in America was American media, and it was pretty mainstream. You know, it generally didn't express extreme anti-Israel views. You had to go to a pretty weird bookstore to find global media and fringe media.
I mean, there's absolutely nothing at all concerning about how so many ruling class figures are freaking out and have been for like the past decade about the fact that people in the US have access to foreign broadcasts.
Today, we have social media, which is a global medium, right? It is shaped, its algorithms are shaped by billions of people worldwide who don't really love Jews. And so while in the 1990s, you know, a young person probably wasn't going to find...
Well, I mean, yeah, that's the problem, actually, of course.
Al Jazeera or someone like Nick Fuentes.
Oh, I love how she just sort of lumps the neo-Nazi in there, who is just, I mean, the only reason he has anything, he shows up on, like, any kind of Palestine-related Twitter, because he, like a lot of neo-Nazis, is trying to chase clout off of the blood of the Palestinians, who he couldn't give less of a fuck than a fuck about. But he does have that added benefit to Zionists that they can just lump him in with anti-racists.
Yeah, let's find them. They find them on their phones. It's also this increasingly post-literate media, less and less text, more and more videos. So you have TikTok just smashing our young people's brains all day long with video of carnage in Gaza.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe Maybe that's the problem. Maybe there shouldn't be carnage in Gaza. Maybe the fact that there's carnage in Gaza is part of what makes people think that maybe what Israel and the US are doing isn't great. Maybe you should do less carnage.
And this is why so many of us can't have a sane conversation with younger Jews.
A sane conversation being one that does not address the carnage in Gaza.
Because anything that we try to say to them, they are hearing it through this wall of carnage. So
wow, I mean, that's so fucked up. You try to give spout talking points at young people, and they're filtering them through what they know about what's going on in the world. That's so terrible.
I want to give data and information and facts and arguments, and they are just seeing in their minds carnage.
Which is also facts. There are facts and data and arguments around the carnage, which, as she points out, is real. She's not denying that it's real. She's saying it would be much easier to make the arguments she wants to make if people did not see the carnage.
And I sound obscene.
Well, you do sound obscene, but she's spoiler alert, she's going to sound more obscene in a second.
And, I think, unfortunately, the very smart, bet that we made on Holocaust education to serve as anti-Semitism education, in this new media environment, I think that is beginning to break down a little bit.
This bit is just wild. This is the bit that's been quoted everywhere. And it is just wild, because the discussion that has been happening, particularly, I mean, I've seen it among anti-Zionist Jews, is that the problem with Holocaust education is that it is an absolute failure on its own terms, because it's all about never again, and yet we're seeing some again right now. We're getting a bit of again. And how obviously it needs to be completely rethought. And here her problem is it's too effective.
Because Holocaust education is absolutely essential, but I think it may be confusing some of our young people about anti-Semitism because they learn about big, strong Nazis hurting weak, emaciated Jews, and they think, oh, anti-Semitism is like anti-black racism.
Well, it is. I mean, they're both manifestations of white supremacism. And there's a very specific reason that Zionism tries to treat the two as completely unrelated.
Right? Powerful white people against powerless black people. So when on TikTok all day long they see powerful Israelis hurting weak, skinny Palestinians...
So the problem with Holocaust education is that it teaches young people that Holocausts are a bad thing, when actually sometimes you might want to do a bit of a Holocaust.
It's not surprising that they think, oh, I know, the lesson of the Holocaust is you fight Israel. You fight the big, powerful people hurting the weak people.
Yeah, damn right. That literally is, unless you're an absolute fucking scumbag.
That's not how the Holocaust happened, right?
I mean, that is literally how the Holocaust happened. Like, what is she gonna say? Because, is she...
We all know that. We know that it happened because the Germans insisted that the Jews, 1% of the population, were responsible for all their problems.
Yes, and the point is, like... Okay, that sounds a little bit like how Zionists actually claim that Palestinians are responsible for all of their problems.
Just like people insist that Israel, the size of New Jersey, is responsible for all the world's problems today.
Yeah, no, except, like, people, we're just kind of throwing that in. Like, that is not, as if that was the sort of mainstream anti-Zionist talking point.
But that's not really what you take away from Holocaust education. You take away the images of power, powerless.
Okay, is she going to give us a proposal for how to... Is she going to talk about, like, how this is supposed to work so you can... I mean, let's just note, she has not actually contradicted that. Like, she points out, yes, that Nazis falsely claimed the Jews had all sorts of power over them, when, in fact, Jews in Germany were actually overwhelmingly, desperately poor, and, in fact, so broke they couldn't even afford to maintain a local bank account. Like, I mean, they never recovered from the Depression, and then Hitler got in, and they were really fucked. So, yeah, so it was a story history of some fascist genocidal fucks accusing a bunch of people who were actually kind of powerless in the situation of being all-powerful and then therefore an existential threat. Wow. I mean, it's like... It's almost like I've heard this before.
And
it's almost like I hear this every time I listen to an Israeli government spokesperson.
You also don't really learn about Islamist anti-Semitism and Soviet anti-Zionism, which is so much of what I'm seeing, especially on campus with young people.
Well, I mean, Soviet anti-Zionism, I mean, the problem with it is that it was inconsistent, above all. Because the Soviet Union completely sold the Palestinians out, supported the creation of Israel, actually... Czechoslovakia, the CSSR, actually sent weapons to the Zionists during the Nakba. So, but, yeah.
Today. And I think that zooming back right now, I think American Jews are kind of wrestling with a category that our ancestors in Europe made 250 years ago, where as we transitioned to modern nation states and they wanted to get secular jobs, go to secular universities, they kind of had to reimagine Judaism to fit in, right? You couldn't just be a Jew. You need to be like a French person of the Jewish persuasion.
Well, no, okay, this is really quite the opposite of what was going on. The reason, okay, what she's talking about is that Jews wanted civil rights.
You know, a German of the Jewish faith.
Yes, yeah, exactly. The idea, that Zionists rejected and still reject today is that Jews are citizens, have a right to be equal citizens of the countries they're from.
Kind of reimagine Judaism as a Protestant-style religion, which, look, it worked really well for us, 250 years, very successful. The problem is we're not just a religion. Right? We can all reject every aspect of Jewish religion.
I mean, it's interesting that she uses 250 years because that is about as long as Jews have been racialized. That's like when anti-Semitism in the sense of of anti-Jewish racism as opposed to like Christian anti-Judaism starts to make its appearance actually in Europe around the time that white supremacism generally is beginning to have a thing because scientific racism is having a moment.
Jews, nor are we a race or an ethnicity. Jews are all different races and ethnicities. We are a nation, civilization, tribe, peoplehood. But most of all, we're a family.
I mean, no, we're not. Like, if she wants to claim to be part of a family that I'm in, I'm fucking disowning her.
And so, if you are a young person raised in America,
not that there's anything to inherit from me.
Judaism is a Protestant-style religion, then the 7 million Jews...
Yeah, I mean, what's fascinating about this, precisely, is I'm not even sure who the hell she's talking about when she talks about this, because the people she's concerned about are not, for the most part, saying that.
...in Israel are merely your co-religionists. So, like, if my co-religion...
well, Zionism was founded by Protestants, so, I mean, it kind of fits.
You know, I look at them, and if they're not practicing my religion of social justice and certain prophetic values, then what do I have to do with them?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, why exactly should you support people who stand for the exact opposite of everything you and any decent person stand for?
It would be like telling a mainline, very progressive Protestant in Berkeley, California, you have to care about that Pentecostal in Brazil. It doesn't make sense.
Like... But she's not talking about caring about.
But that's a category error, right? The 7 million people in Israel, they are not my co-religionists, they are my siblings.
No, they're not. And actually, I mean, they don't even particularly like you. Like, if you listen to what Israeli Jews have to say about non-Israeli Jews, it is not flattering. They don't like us. They have a very low opinion of us. They basically use all the anti-Semitic stereotypes, but they say that because they colonized national soil, they have rid themselves of them, but they're all, like, they all apply to us, most Jews.
But I think if you think of them as merely your co-religionists, it's very...
I don't even think of them as that. Like, seriously, I think of them in terms of fuck 'em. At this point. Like, with a vanishingly small number of exceptions of people who are the first to say that they are virtually alone in a sea of fascism. Like, fuck 'em, actually.
To slide into anti-Zionism. You don't necessarily have...
Slide into anti-Zionism? Why slide? What? Run to it. It makes it like is just obviously the right position, unless you're just a horrible racist ghoul.
That connection to them. And, you know, I have to say, like, I think, to conclude, it's becoming increasingly clear that the kind of contentless, bagel and lox, Jewish mother joke identity that many American Jews have, it just doesn't cut it anymore.
Well, except it isn't. I mean, I think she wishes it were contentless. Because, I mean, she's the sort of person who looks at polls, and there have been polls. There actually, and it turns out that, like, part of the content, there is content, and part of it is, at the moment, over to a very significant extent, not exactly a majority yet, but it's been growing in this direction, is disgust with Zionism. You know, not necessarily well-informed disgust, not so much that, you know, not necessarily manifesting itself in the form of rejecting the entire ideology, but certainly in the form of disgust at its works.
When your Jewish identity is a big empty void with a few ethnic jokes rattling around in it, it will be filled by what is around you. And if what is around you is anti-Semitism, you will be helpless to fight back.
Well, no. First of all, I find it just interesting how she hasn't even tried. She's just kind of... she's been saying anti-Zionism up until now, which is correct, but she says it like it's a bad thing because she's a shithead. But...
if someone tells you that the Jewish God is violent and vengeful and Judaism is a legalistic, unloving religion, and you know nothing about Jewish tradition, what will you say?
Well, I mean, no, what we need is positive Jewish role models like Sarah Hurwitz. Like, what kind of fucking values are you going to put into it when you're explaining how, actually, you know, I know you've seen a lot of carnage. Yeah, they've essayed and murdered a huge number of people and bombed all the hospitals and destroyed. But did you know that they invented the cherry tomato? Like, did you know that? Did you know they invented drip irrigation? Like what the fuck? Yeah, like, I mean, she just, what, I don't even want to know what content she wants to put into it. Honestly, I mean, except that it will be so horrible that I would not be able to turn away as she explained it. Because somebody whose problem with Holocaust in education is that it leaves people saying never again, I think that you're probably the reason why a lot of Jews are alienated from, you know, these mainstream Zionist organizations that claim to represent the Jewish community.
Tikkun Olam? It's not a great answer. If they say that Israel...
Why isn't it a great answer? Like, a whole tradition that is about making the world a better place? That seems like a pretty good answer to me. Like, what's your...
Israel is a genocidal, racist state.
I mean, it is.
And you know nothing about Jewish history or Israel?
Well, I mean, except that it's a genocidal, racist state, which is certainly a start.
What, we're going to be like, I like Seinfeld. It doesn't work. You know, we need to know our Jewish story in a way that when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, I didn't really. I could get away with that identity.
I find it fascinating. I mean, what she's saying here, because she's actually, it's interesting, she is actually talking about the Jewish community when she's talking about this. And what she's saying, when you get through all of the, like, ghoulish shit that she's saying, is that a lot of Jews are just lost to pro-Israel propaganda. I would like to think that she's actually quite right. That, in fact, that Zionism has simply failed to win them. that would be very good. And the fact that she has not come up here with a plan, with an idea, tells me that she doesn't fucking know how you could possibly get past this either. And I mean, we can hope.
Young people who have that empty
We can hope that they can't get past this.
Jewish identity today, it is being filled by anti-Semitism, and we need to give them the content to protect them.
Except I mean, she hasn't given an example of it being filled by anti-Semitism. She's just pointed out that that it's being filled by facts about Israel, and like it almost sounds like maybe, like she keeps on talking about this empty Jewish identity. I don't. The people that she's talking about. First of all, she immediately rejects Tikkun Olam out of hand, which is great. Like, doesn't even merit argument for why it's no good as a founding principle. I mean, which is really respectful of Jewish tradition as well. It's just like, yeah, fuck Tikkun Olam. What are you gonna do with that? I mean, how are you gonna deal with that'll just make people like the carnage even less. Wow. Okay. Holy shit. I mean, in a way, that was ghoulish, but it was also, I feel like it's good news. Now, I had a suggestion in my DMs on Twitter and then in Discord of what is a video by a jabroni called Jared Corona, who I've never heard of, on left anti-Semitism, which is always great. That phrase, some dodgy shit's gonna come, because the reason that phrase is used by Zionists, and almost exclusively by Zionists, is that it makes it sound like there is a specific left kind of anti-Semitism, as opposed to there just being the usual kind of anti-Semitism in left spaces, as there unfortunately occasionally indeed is. So, and I've seen a couple of clips from this because I wanted to get my bearings, and Sophie, who recommended it rather, sent me a couple of clips. So here we go.
During the 2025 election season,
do not harass any of the people in this video. I mean, one of the people in this video is, I will say, there are some legit anti-Semitic assholes in here that he lumps in. Or let me just see, is there an about? Because, just see. Yeah. Okay, yes. I have a feeling
you may or may not have seen election coverage of the New York City mayoral race, where DSA Zohran Mamdani was accused of anti-Semitism again and again for his support of Palestinians in the face of Israel's...
support which is rapidly diminishing. I mean, I have to say, it is really nice when they speed run this sort of thing, because it means that less time gets wasted on it.
Human rights abuses pre and post October 7th, 2023.
Just human rights abuses. That is one of the things I was told, that Jared here somehow avoids ever calling it a genocide.
I believe many of these accusations against him were opportunistic and without merit.
Many.
Here too online, though, one thing you might have seen...
Many, not all.
...is the pushback from certain leftists that goes a little something like this. Left-wing anti-Semitism isn't real. Or you might have seen some variation on, oh, so now we're supposed to care about Jewish feelings in the middle of it.
Like, those are what you're hearing amongst what leftists are you surrounding yourself with here? That is, I'm surrounded online by a fairly diverse sample of tendencies and regions, including a bunch of, New York leftists who followed this closer than anyone just because he was running to be their fucking mayor. I've literally never heard those talking points.
Genocide? On one extreme, you push feelings in the middle of a genocide?
Oh, okay, so I could barely hear that. In the middle of a genocide. What is up with this mic? I mean, he's right up in front of it, and I could barely hear that. And so we're clearly getting off to a good start when somebody in the middle of a genocide is sort of casting doubt on the fact that it is one.
On one extreme, you have people insisting that any form of critique of Israel constitutes anti-Semitism. On the other hand, you have people insisting that anti-Semitism isn't happening, or, if it is, it's good.
Well, what?
I am not a fan of bigotry. I do not care from whom it comes, whether we are supposed allies or foes. I am not a fan of cruelty, whether it's coming from myself or from others. The willful blind eye certain left-wing spaces have turned toward the moral rot infesting our spaces is extremely frustrating for me. It has soured me on many people. So let's talk about anti-Semitism on the left. First, it's best to get a few things out of the way.
Okay.
Most people advocating for the Palestinian people are not bigots. They do not.
I mean, what's wild about this, the whole framing here, is you always, the whole idea is that, like, people who oppose Zionism and, like, leftists who, I mean, I don't really consider somebody, there are two things that I feel are kind of necessary before I will actually consider somebody within the definition of leftist, and one of them is that they oppose Zionism and the other is that they oppose capitalism, because I think actually the two things go together in a lot of ways. But to just act like fucking hell, I've run out of what was I about to say? Let me back it up and maybe I'll remember.
Out of the way. Most people advocating for
Oh, okay, yes. This idea that we're supposed to be on the defensive about that. Like, in the time that I've been in left spaces, there's been a lot of effort, particularly in, like, the Palestinian Solidarity Movement, to get rid of the fash entryists who show up in those spaces and try to take advantage of them and hijack them to turn them into some sort of anti-Semitic bullshit. People like Alison Weir, for example, or Gilad Atzmon, the Holocaust-denying sexophonist. And I've been very much involved in exposing and fighting against that shit. You don't, that sort of effort, you never hear Zionists engaging in that sort of effort. They're surrounded by fucking anti-Semitic assholes. Like, I mean, they're surrounded by people like Elon Musk and Friedrich Merz and the AfD and Le Pen and, Orban. I mean, and that Hagee guy from the Christians United for Israel. Zionists are surrounded. They have anti-Semites all over their ranks. Their ideology is profoundly anti-Semitic in all sorts of ways, but they're never put on the defensive about it.
The Palestinian people are not bigots. They do not hold special animosity for Jewish people. They are driven by a desire to see the amount of suffering in this world lessened. That is a good desire. Anti-Zionism does not equate anti-Semitism.
I mean, see, that true, both of those things are true, although I've also heard people say that and then turn around and equate those things. Okay. Like, I mean, fucking Chuck Schumer's book, which I haven't read, which basically nobody read, but so I read something by somebody who read it, and one of the features is, of course, he goes, yeah, of course we can and should criticize Israel for their missteps. But then he spends the entire book never doing that. So this sort of preface means absolutely nothing.
First, this brings up the question: what exactly is Zionism?
Well, I mean, that's a good question, and there's a good answer, because it's an ideology with a long history. His new book, I forget what it was called. It was his autobiography that nobody fucking asked for. His, Chuck Schumer book. Yeah, Anti-Semitism in America, A Warning, and there was a really good... Yeah. I know he does not criticize Israel at all in there. Yeah, that's right. Spectre actually had a really good review of it. No. He just says that in order to then turn around and accuse everyone who actually does the thing that he says is okay of anti-Semitism.
They seem easy to answer. Zionists are those who believe Israel is and ought to be a Jewish state.
Which is, okay, let's just get this out of the way, that's anti-Semitic. It's a Zionist state, it's a white supremacist state. Equating Zionism and Jews is anti-Semitic. And that is not all of what Zionism is. But that is enough to oppose it, because ethno-states are bad, actually.
That exists on the lands on which it exists.
Except that, I mean, what does that mean, exists on the land on which it exists? Because it's constantly expanding. Like, it currently exists on the land that it is legally allowed to exist on, plus a third of Syria, plus a whole bunch of Lebanon, plus the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem.
However, according to certain Israeli nationalists, Zionism must entail support for Netanyahu and the destruction wrought in Gaza.
Well, why are we just talking about certain Israeli nationalists, though? Why don't we just... this is an ideology with a long history at this point. There's about 150 odd years of Zionist literature that you can look at. There is a history of Zionist praxis going back nearly as long. You can look at what Zionism is and what it does, and you can look at the critiques that existed all along. Like, why are we acting like this is a hard thing to work out? It is a well-established ideology. And I'm not picking on this guy, I don't even, as so much, because I've seen this move a lot from people who are like, yeah, anti-Zionism is okay, but what is Zionism? We will never know what Zionism is. Zionism is just a vibe, dude. Or something like that, this idea that it's a mystery what Zionism is. Like, it
might include support for increasing expansion and settlement.
Which is not just that is not just an Israeli right-wing position. Like, Israel officially refuses to acknowledge what they consider their borders. They refuse to say what territorial extent they claim, because they don't want to limit their options.
It might include being against any and all criticism and restrictions against the Israeli government and its action. Then you have...
What are you talking about, it might? We don't have to speculate on what Zionism is.
Others who will define Zionism as the belief that Israel should continue to exist regardless of the shape its government takes.
What does that mean, regardless of the shape its government takes? Like, I mean, whether... Yeah, like, what exactly does that mean? Because I don't think that Zionists who say Israel should continue to exist are in fact saying regardless of the shape its government takes, because they have certain very specific things they want that government, that form of government to be, in particular that it needs to be an ethnocracy.
For those who claim two-state advocates are Zionists.
Well, they are. And they're supporting apartheid.
Some claim Zionism is the support of anything except for the ethnic cleansing of Israelis from the area, and often by Israeli they mean Jew.
Well, I mean, why is he making that distinction? I mean, is he saying that often, but not always, the people who are talking about ethnically cleansing Israelis from the area don't mean to also kick out the Palestinian citizens of Israel? The Palestinian, like, I mean... Well, the trouble is, I mean, that is certainly what Zionists try to do, because but the reason it is important to point out that fully a fifth of Israeli citizens are not Jewish is because the reason that they try to make those things synonymous is to make the internal apartheid regime invisible. They try to make it look, I mean, like the Zionists will try to act like there is no apartheid within the 1948 territories, and that the Palestinians only exist in the 67 territories. So it is an important thing to point out that like a fifth of Israeli citizens are in fact Palestinians and are also under an apartheid regime. Like there is now a law, there are now like new race laws being debated in order to make it easier to lock up Israeli citizens if they are of Palestinian descent.
Zionism doesn't mean anything anymore because Israel has been established and Zionism was the movement for its establishment.
No, but that's nonsense too. It's like you don't have to act like these are all equally valid claims. There is a history here. This is like somebody being like, well, some people say that Marxism means believing in the tendency of the right of profit to fall and historical materialism and the foundational character of class struggle within history. And then other people, they say that Marxism is when you think buses should be cheaper. And we'll probably never know what Marxism is. And like, yeah, we fucking will, because there's a whole literature you can read. You can talk to people and believe in it and find out what they believe. Like, there's all sorts of ways, if you have even a modicum of intellectual curiosity, to find out what this ideology, what an ideology stands for. Like, Zionism isn't a fucking, like, dust cloud.
Many of these conversations get messy because a lot of people are accidentally talking past each other, or they purposefully are. Everyone assumes that their use of Zionist is the way everyone else uses it.
See, the thing is that every single version of the use of Zionism that he has described is a version that any anti-racist would have to reject.
Good faith for me and mine, the worst faith for you and yours. At a certain point, it becomes a function.
Like, should we at all pay attention to praxis? Like, Zionism includes the fucking Nakba. It includes putting the Palestinian citizens of Israel under military law until 1965. It includes this current genocide, which is almost universally supported in the Jewish population of Israel. Oh god, that is an unfortunate freeze frame I gave him.
Useless word in these talks?
No, it isn't. Some people try to make it so. And, I mean, I'm going to give him... I've never heard of this guy, and he is only a slightly larger creator than me. So I'm going to give him some presumption of good faith here and assume that he has heard all these arguments and has simply never bothered to investigate them. Which, I would say, is a good reason not to be talking about it. Like, maybe you're not the person to talk about what Zionism does and doesn't mean because you clearly don't know anything about it. But, like, if you're gonna make this 1 hour, 40-minute long video that is going to be dealing, among other things, with Zionism, maybe look into what it is, because it is it's an ideology, it has tenets.
Off at me as you want to be. In the comments, just be aware that I have no qualms about deleting cruel comments, whether they are directed at me, at Palestinian civilians, or at Israeli civilians. You can attempt to excuse your cruelty in whatever social justice language you want.
Okay, so nice little both sides here.
You can put on costumes of extravagant bluster and pretend to hold moral superiority that allows you to be cruel. I will still delete it. I will encourage you to go to therapy, but your cruelty accomplishes nothing.
What cruelty are we even talking about here?
The flaccid attempt at what is ultimately pathetic catharsis. Just don't waste your time. It's too precious for that. Fully mourn for the Palestinian lives taken by Israel, but instead worded his response in such a followers commented that it's disgusting watching him simp for Zionists, as if that's at all connected to this statement.
No, it isn't connected to this statement. It's connected to what he's doing, because throughout October, his whole line, he was joining the whole rest of the Democratic Party except for like Rashida Tlaib and like two others. In saying that actually a ceasefire is what Hamas wants, and all this sort of bullshit. So yeah, fuck him. So that is the context here.
Of around 1,000 followers called it out of touch.
Yeah, out of touch. Why was it out of touch? What was going on at the time?
Razik of around 4,000 followers called him a disgrace to America's left. A supposed Jill Stein supporter with around 1,000 followers called him trash for this.
Well, I don't think they're calling him trash for this, though. I think they're calling him trash because the context is that he was making excuses for a genocide at the same time. Like, why didn't you look at it? What else he was saying at the time? Because maybe that's why people are pissed off. I said
Johnny Socialism, around 13,000 followers, could have yes anded this to also rightfully mourn for the Palestinian lives taken by Israel, but instead worded his response in such a way as to imply that it is wrong to mourn the lives of those murdered.
Yeah, he didn't imply that. He did not say that. What he did, I mean, he didn't imply that, and he didn't say that. What he said, though, is that the Zionist occupying forces in occupied Palestine are committing a fucking genocide with the support of Sanders and Joe Biden, which was a true statement, and why the context, why it is actually kind of revolting for him to be like acting all like concerned about human life in the one context at the same time as he shows very little concern for human life in the other context, for which he bears a significant amount of responsibility.
Jewish people. Spooky 365 Cheryl, around 2,000 followers, called him sick and disgusting for daring to post this.
No, God, like, I wonder, I just wonder here if maybe they said Bernie Sanders, this was not the first post, I think, of what he was, that he ever put on Twitter. That maybe what people are responding to, could it possibly be all the other stuff he was saying at the time, say about the genocide that was going on?
Bay of Light of around 1,000 followers said, "How dare you use them right now?"
And yeah, I mean, note what he's kind of skipping over is the bit where this person said, "I went to synagogue for the first time in years to mourn for this, but how fucking dare you use them right now?" Like, the point is, they're calling him out for being actually very cynical about this.
Fuck you on the 5-year anniversary. Der Arschloch decided that posting this is evidence Bernie is a fraud and libs are...
And Der Arschloch needs to brush up on gender in German.
...are Nazis. You know, that very famous Nazi thing of being against murdering Jews in an anti-Semitic attack.
I think it was the famous Nazi thing of committing genocide and distracting from it by pointing out, like, pretty much literally anything other than what they were actually doing at the time.
He has around 10,000 followers. Daniel Armands of Interview with Vampire Stan Twitter.
Like, first of all, none of these people... and these are all just random people on Twitter, first of all, that we're talking about. And second of all, they're pissed off at Bernie Sanders for something other than the fact that he's posting this. This is... I really... This seems just like such a willful misreading.
City DSA, even though I'm not a DSA member, but like, good on you guys. Mamdani made a statement condemning an attack in Boulder, Colorado, where an insane person lit Jewish protesters on fire.
Actually, they weren't Jewish, and they were pro-genocide protesters.
At an event organized for the
I mean, so what we're having here is equating pro-Israel, pro-genocide with Jewish, both by a lot of the people who put this up there, who posted on this, and by the author of this video, whose name I've already forgotten.
Hostages. To preempt some comments, no, it is not immoral to be against the taking of civilian hostages or to advocate for their release.
Which, yeah, except what is immoral, though, actually, that I think you'll find, is to cynically use the captives and POWs that were taken by the Palestinian resistance as a way to advocate in defense of the genocide, when the people, actually, the families of those captives, when they were protesting, doing their Bring Them Home protests, they were protesting against the Israeli government because the Israeli government was the main obstacle to getting them home. So yeah, it's actually deeply cynical. And you also do have to wonder about the humanitarian bona fides of somebody who is concerned with like 200 POWs and civilian captives who are Israelis and Europeans and U.S. citizens, at the same time as 10,000 hostages who are Palestinian. Does not interest them in the least. You do have to kind of wonder.
Caring about the Israeli hostages or calling them hostages in the first place.
Well, I mean, that is a politically loaded term, and again, a lot of them were military, so they were POWs, and
is neither an act of Zionism nor of genocidal bloodlust.
Except, yeah, again, I don't know this guy at all. So either he is naive as fuck and does not realize that these Bring Them Home protests were very much were in support of the genocide, in support of the premise that the genocide was about bringing them home. Like, is he really that unaware? In which case he really shouldn't be making a video on this subject, or is he being that dishonest? In which case he also should be making a video on this subject.
For not explicitly calling this an anti-Semitic attack, which
it wasn't.
I suppose is a fair criticism. And other right-wing people express their insane beliefs, from random Islamophobia to flat-out statements of anti-Palestinian bloodlust.
Which is completely in keeping with the protest you're describing.
The entire comment section in response to Mamdani is pretty crisp. Joe Emma's...
Yeah, I mean...
Berger, someone with nearly 12,000 followers and whose profile implies he's a big fan of political violence, said fuck you to Mamdani.
Yeah, well, yes, because as he points out, what they're talking about is promoters of the Holocaust in Gaza.
They're comparing the people attacked to Nazis.
Well, yes, because they're supporting a genocide. It was a fucking white supremacist protest.
Karina Majnouna is extremely pro-Hamas, so it's probably not surprising that this account with nearly 10,000 followers is upset at him for being anti-murdering the Jews.
But he was not. This was not anything to do with anti-murdering the Jews. This was a pro-genocide protest.
Amy Marie, 1988, around 2,500 followers, claims you can only be anti-murdering Jews if you're attempting to pander to Zionists.
Yeah, well, no, she does not, because that's not what we're talking about. That is literally just not what we're talking about. And again, like, either he has not looked into this, or he knows better. Either he doesn't know better or he does know better. Either way, really, maybe you should inform yourself before you make an hour and 40-minute video on this.
6,000 or so follower, however, the only Sheikah agreed with this sentiment and called Mamdani delusional for condemning setting people on fire. Francois Hardley, one of those Hamas triangle types with 6,000 followers.
One of those what?
Francois Hardley, one of those Hamas triangle types with...
Hamas triangle types. Like, the triangle that... First of all, it isn't just Hamas that uses it, and it is a symbol of the fucking resistance against the genocide.
6,000 followers, seems to defend the attack by pointing to the U.S.'s complicity in Israel's actions, because
which he still hasn't called genocide.
In his mind, that justifies setting Jews on fire.
They weren't Jews, actually, and he didn't say... Why are you reading people's minds? Maybe don't read the minds of people you've never heard of. Maybe go with what they're saying, and maybe just kind of stick to the facts.
I guess. Resistance San Maria of the Hamas Triangle and around 5,000 followers called Mamdani a pathetic lowlife. Jerry Slinger of around 1,000 followers called him an establishment stooge. Do This Till We Free with around 1,000 followers said Mamdani being against setting Jews on fire is disqualified.
Which, again, that's not what this is about, okay? So, random people on Twitter, there are a couple of people who are well known, like Joe Emmersberger is somewhat well known out of all the people on there. But other than that...
And obviously he targeted them for their work with Israel. I have looked around, and he targeted them anti-Semitic, which took the morally committed by Elias Rodriguez. Mamdani framed the shooting as anti-Semitic.
Which is wrong, because they weren't Jewish, but they were Israeli government employees.
Which angered many people who insisted it was anti-Zionism, and obviously he targeted them for their work with Israel.
Well, yes, it was a pro-genocide. They were representing the Israeli embassy at a pro-genocide event, and actually neither of them was Jewish.
I have looked around, and I cannot tell from the reporting and posts whether or not Elias actually knew who he was allegedly.
He was at a
shooting.
Oh, yeah, well, this is... How long ago was this? I am just looking... 6 days ago. Yeah, I mean, within like a couple of weeks of the shooting, it was very clear he knew exactly where he went. He went to a fucking Israeli embassy event. He shot 2 Israeli embassy staffers. It was very clear he knew exactly what he was doing, and he said so. Like, there is absolutely no excuse for acting like this is a fucking mystery. But then this guy acts like it's a mystery what Zionism is.
There are claims he picked them after mingling inside the event and learning of their jobs, but it's not something...
In fact, that was substantiated. He did go into the event because he knew what the event was. He bought a fucking ticket for the event. Like, we've known this for like a year now.
Thing I've seen reporting on, and
God, why wouldn't, like, if you know you're gonna be doing a video on this, why don't you get your facts in order first?
Google is all fucked up, so it's hard to find articles on things now that are legitimate. The internet is frustrating.
Well, yeah, but you could have waited. You could have done this. Yeah. And then made the video. It isn't actually that hard.
Regardless, that would not have been information available to Mamdani when he made his statement.
Yes, it was available. It's been known for a while.
To assume that a gunman targeted random Jews who walked...
They weren't random. They weren't even Jews.
...out of an event...
an Israeli embassy event...
...was somewhat reasonable and would lead one to conclude it was an attack of anti-Semitism.
Like, again, this is such unforced error. You planned to make this video. You didn't think to just actually check the stuff out first?
I did read Ken Klippenstein's posts of Rodriguez's supposed manifesto.
Yeah, which also makes it very clear.
In his chats with people where he comes across as a maladjusted piece of shit, but not necessarily anti-Semitic. These were also not things available to Mamdani by the time he made his statement.
Yeah, but what was available was enough to know that everything that... See, here's the thing. They are available to you, and yet you're not... You're just talking as if these things didn't exist.
One thing that you're going to find over and over again is an insistence that this couldn't be anti-Semitic, not because of Rodriguez's stated anti-Zionist supposed reasoning.
I mean, though that is very clear.
But because only one of the victims was Jewish, while the other was Christian. Look, this just betrays a complete misunderstanding of Jewishness.
Yeah, no, it doesn't, actually. The guy was a fundamentalist Christian. He was described as a devout Christian. He was, in fact, a German right-wing fuck. He was a German Christian fascist. So, yeah, no, not Jewish.
An ethnic Jew.
He wasn't one. He literally wasn't one.
Is not necessarily a practitioner of Judaism.
God. Yeah, except he wasn't that either.
Lyshinsky was half Jewish. All of this bloviating about his religion does not...
Well, it does kind of matter in this context, because you're trying to say that you're trying to resurrect the idea that the reason that somebody would have decided to attack two staffers for the embassy of a state engaged in genocide at an event where they were acting in support of that genocide was something other than the thing that he himself said he was doing.
Not change that. It is absolutely wild to me that people who seem incapable of remotely understanding the intricacies of an ethno-religious group that can...
Wow, yeah, try to explain to us the intricacies, because you've been doing such a fucking great job of that so far.
Be separated out into an ethnicity and a religion that may or may
and he was neither of those things.
Not combine would make such strong definitive statements because they did not want to give any credence to the mere idea that murders committed outside a Jewish museum after a Jewish event.
No, not a Jewish event, a genocidal event. Don't equate those things. That's actually anti-Semitic.
Which killed 2 Jews.
No, it didn't.
Have been anti-Semitic.
Like, wow, I mean, that's so great, because it's like, yeah, I know you got lots of facts and stuff, and but just because the facts say something different doesn't mean that the facts are true.
Regardless of whether it ultimately...
regardless of whether the facts matter.
Was in the end, this reaction is at best deeply pathetic.
No, it isn't. No, it fucking isn't. Like, so would you say that the shooting of Ernst vom Rath was anti-German then? It has, I mean, there would be a stronger claim of that than there was in the case of the embassy shooting, because Ernst vom Rath actually was German.
Infamous Twitter shithead Margbar America with 84,000 followers called Mamdani a dumbass and implied he was overperforming for Zionists because this guy could never imagine being against...
Why don't you... He never reads what these people say. He puts it up on screen, and then he just sort of rewrites it to fit his fucking narrative.
Murder for anti-murder reasons. Benzo Stray Dogs with 3,000 followers besmirching the name of the good manga Bungo Stray Dogs. Called this bending the knees. Miss Rena Idris seems to have amassed 12,000 followers by posting random things she makes up, like that the 2 people killed were Israeli soldiers.
Well, I mean, they were Israeli government employees, so most likely they had been in the Israeli occupation forces. And in any case, they were working for the government engaged in the genocide, so yeah.
She asked if Mamdani is out of his mind for condemning murder, perhaps because she's looking for company. Joe Catron of 41,000 followers called Mamdani a Zionist.
Katrin, I will say, is an asshole. There are things I can't go into, but he sucks. But he's not wrong here.
For his murder if IPAC took over you. Hi there. Unrelated to everything else, as someone who is not really a fan of IPAC, this is just straight up the Jews control you anti-Semitism.
Well, yeah, I mean, the APAC thing is a bit nonsensical. That is bullshit, and that is actually kind of dodgy out of all of the things. But people pointing out that this is bullshit, that maybe somebody who was absolutely who was losing his shit over a genocide, which he very clearly was, and couldn't think of anything else to do and lashed out, as has been known to have at representatives of the regime doing the genocide. Like, that could possibly be something to do with the genocide that he does not seem to be interested in acknowledging. That's a choice.
In fact, this is a fine moment to take some time to say there is a trend of criticizing IPAC in a way that dances around anti-Semitic stereotypes.
I mean, sometimes it doesn't so much dance around them as it just openly dance with them. I mean, that is true. My ears always perk up around discussions of AIPAC because there are, like, legit discussions of AIPAC as an organization, which is basically a propaganda arm of the oil and gas and arms industries. And there is this idea of AIPAC as somehow, despite having a tiny budget compared to the lobbying efforts of the oil and gas and arms industries, is somehow dominating U.S. foreign policy. And the great thing about the fact that AIPAC's brand is now so toxic that a lot of pro-Israel politicians are ditching their funding is that we're about to see just how little that funding actually matters when it comes to this shit.
In ways that criticizing IPAC does not require. And yet, when you point out the, at best, weird optics of this, people will start to insist.
I mean, it's a bit weird to make this about weird optics. I mean, it's funny that you're, like, on these other things where people are just pointing out that this condemnation, like, misrepresents the nature of the attack. And, yeah, but the one that he decides to just make about weird optics is the one that actually is, at the very least, borderline anti-Semitic.
They're a Zionist.
Like, maybe if that's how bad your anti-Semitism radar is, you are not the person to be making this fucking video.
Fan of IPAC. This is horseshit. No, sorry. Horseshit is sometimes useful.
Okay, but I just noticed the time. It is time for me to wrap up for tonight. Thank you to everyone who joined in. Thank you to Sophie who recommended this video. Wow, it is shite. It is really, really unfortunate, and it does not exactly break the stereotypes that Jared, that was the name. I was like, Jason? Gerald? Jethro? I knew it was a J name, but I completely was blanking on which one. Thank you to Sophie for recommending this train wreck of a video. Have a good night, and I will be back at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time tomorrow. Have a good rest of your evening.